right, what is up, everybody? Welcome into today's edition of In the Game. I am your host, Hustle, and as always, we will be diving into the crypto gaming, NFT gaming landscape today, as I have a very, very special guest today. The co-founder of Immutable, Robbie Ferguson, will be joining the show today. We're going to dive into all things Web3 gaming and Immutable X, as everyone's excited about their partnerships and the games coming to the platform. So we're going to kind of dive deep and ask some questions as far as long-term goals, as far as adoption. They're going with a very ease of access approach that I really love. We're going to go all in on Immutable X in this edition. So without further ado, let's get in the game.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
If you ain't here to hustle, why is you here? But if you here to hustle, the moon is near. It's crypto Banter, not financial advice. If you don't listen, what's the cost, what's the price? This ain't a game, put you on game. I know you don't play, but ain't a percent. If you ain't here to hustle, why is you here? But if you here to hustle, the moon is near. It's crypto Banter, not financial advice. If you don't listen, what's the cost, what's the price? This ain't a game, put you on game. I know you don't play, but ain't a play. If you get lost, show you the way.
All right, and let's get into it. Be sure to like the show if you enjoy the video, as well if you are bullish on Immutable X, and subscribe to the channel for videos here every single day on Crypto Banter. And remember, the show is sponsored by Animoca Brands, Unix Gaming, as well as MEXC, the official exchange of the In the Game show. Now let's bring on our guest today, and I am honored to be joined by none other than Robbie Ferguson from Immutable. Robbie, how are you today?
Great, thanks, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Excited to have you on and really just dive into Web3 gaming and just the whole space, and then get into Immutable. I think everyone's excited about what y'all brought to the table, over I don't know, 12 to 18 months, really, since y'all been really stirring up a lot of noise, even pre-launch of the token. Y'all are making tons of noise. So really excited about what y'all have done for the space. So thank you for joining me. And for anyone who might not know your background in the space, how you maybe got involved in gaming and Web3, maybe you want to give a deep dive really quickly as far as how you got into both gaming and Web3, and how those kind of both brought you and merged to this space and with Immutable.
Yeah, of course. So very quick summary, software engineer by background, been building startups for the majority of the last decade with my brother. We built everything from a betting application for League of Legends to a Shopify competitor which used machine learning. We got into Bitcoin in 2014. I thought it was kind of interesting, but I was obsessed with Ethereum when it came out, and became pretty quickly convinced that it would be the financial backend to everything. But we didn't really know what would be the first killer app or mainstream use case. And even today, the entire Web3 audience is really around 30 million users. And so we built trading bots in the space for a couple of years, from 2015 to 2017. And I guess the other bit of context is both, me and James were massive gamers growing up. I have thousands of hours in League of Legends and RuneScape. And when we saw CryptoPunks come out in the middle of 2017, which was essentially the first ever NFT, I remember just seeing this and saying to James, this will be how we give gamers property rights over stuff. And we actually started out by building the first ever multiplayer game on a blockchain. It was completely on-chain logic, so it's very, very expensive to run today. And we learned pretty quickly what should go on-chain versus off-chain. But I think that formed a lot of our views on sort of the technical architecture choices that we've made in building what Immutable X is today, which is a incredibly simple platform for any game to use or any player to trade on for Web3 games, that actually launched as the first ever ZK rollup layer 2 for NFTs. So we're really excited by, I think, what we're seeing in the space today. One really important thing about Immutable's vision is we are not that excited about sort of, luxury art or kind of expensive NFTs being traded as the future of Web3. I think they're really cool. I think there's sort of been massive success there. But where we think, the 100-fold increase in users and volume comes from is just taking the couple of billion people who play games around the world and making sure every time they play a game or use digital property, that's real digital property backed by an NFT. And that's when we have trillions of dollars of volume, where people are trading assets for $1 or $2, and they're getting genuine property rights on this stuff. So we're really excited, I guess, for taking this mainstream and making it actually better for players.
Yeah, definitely. And you had this tweet here, which kind of leads me perfectly into the second question. And obviously, you kind of had some of your ideology right there on NFT gaming. And I think it's so important. And this right here just is the blueprint for the whole ideology. So many people spend so much time for unlocks, battle passes that they also spent money on, camouflages that they all unlocked that won't transfer over to the new Call of Duty Warzone game. As we see here, Modern Warzone, a news source in the Call of Duty scene, saying that none of the cosmetic items will go from Warzone Legacy to Warzone 2. So obviously, everyone in this space, you and I in particular, everyone that is involved in crypto gaming really sees that power and ownership. What were like those experiences in gaming that brought you around to feel like ownership was maybe that next wave and property rights in this industry, right? Was there a game that ever, made you so affectionate to that idea, skins that you were like very into purchasing? For example, I was big into Call of Duty Warzone too. I spent a lot of money on that game. I will be real. So what were some games maybe that triggered those ideologies for you?
Well, growing up, I played a few games a lot. One of them was Neopets, actually, embarrassingly, which has a massive gray economy. One of them was also RuneScape. And I remember when I was a kid, I shared an account. I can share that now. It is against terms of service. I remember one day going on in his account and taking it into the wilderness and losing all of his dragon armor. So like the most kind of valuable armor that he had. I felt so bad that the next day I went and spent all my pocket money on one of those websites where you can buy in-game gold to try and buy his armor back. And worked well. Then 2 days later, the account was banned for real-world trading. And then 6 months later, Jagex releases Bonds, which is their own official version of real-world trading where they take profits. So it was pretty clear just how, and it's not as if Jagex is a bad company. It's just the incentives aren't set up for that to be giving players rights. The expectation is not set up as an industry that should be the standard that players have. So I think that was pretty messed up and was kind of an early forming idea. And then literally right as we launched this game, Etherbots, back at the back end of 2017, we had Counter-Strike Go trade lock their assets. So Valve basically said, well, hey, one of the biggest third-party grade marketplaces in the world for skins, which was the CSGO grade marketplace, meant that you could only trade these assets once per week. And overnight, a $300 million company, Opskins, went out of business. Players lost hundreds of millions of dollars that they had spent on in-game items, or hundreds of millions of hours of their time they'd spent earning these assets, which just shows how ultimately these fake gray marketplaces aren't real. There are no true digital property rights.
Yeah, not at all. And the one technology in the world that can have a trustless source that peer-to-peer, it is going to work as far as the transaction. Those black market websites, you had to rely on the password exchange and account recoveries, sending over money over sources. It never really worked that well. Like some websites had like services to facilitate, try to middleman it, but it was always kind of a sketchy thing when you were transacting on those websites as well. And the one technology that can push that forward is, blockchain. And let's dive into, Immutable, because, with what Immutable is doing and empowering in the space is ease of access onboarding to bring games to Web3 and user experiences to Web3 with some of the best games and property rights in the world as well. And also bringing those to true ownership with a marketplace, NFTs, etc. So obviously I'll obviously start for anyone who's for some reason, and if you're into NFT gaming, you definitely are familiar with Immutable. But if you have been living under a rock, give us a quick TLDR on Immutable.
Yeah, so Immutable is really the platform that allows anyone to build a successful Web3 game incredibly simply, with full EVM, with full Ethereum security via ZK rollups, with more than 10,000 transactions per second in terms of scale. And most importantly, you can mint 100 million or 1 billion NFTs, or trade 1 billion NFTs on Immutable, and you pay $0 in gas fees. And we're the only platform that offers this in the world today. And the reason that we built our architecture this way is we realized the 10,000 or 100,000 NFT projects that we're seeing today are, they're a specific category, which is really collectibles or sort of these, PFP projects. But what we're most excited about is utility-driven assets, where you have a reason to buy or trade this stuff. It allows you to show off in game. It gives you utility like an item or a sword or something which is crucial to that gameplay. And then having billions of these assets, each traded casually. And the game publishers may not even know how much this stuff ends up trading for. So to attach a cost of 1 cent or 10 cents to it is to completely kill what I think is the most exciting use case of Web3. And the other thing that I think it allows is, if you look at this model, it actually opens up a brand new monetization model for games that is just fundamentally aligned with players. The example I always bring up here is Magic the Gathering Arena, the physical version of Magic the Gathering, where if you look at the secondary market cap of these cards in the world today, it's roughly between 10 and $20 billion. It's what it's estimated at. But every year, because they can't tap into any of those secondary fees, they have to keep making more powerful cards, which make old ones lose value, and sell these to players. How much better would the model be if all their job was, well, hey, let's grow this economy over time, make sure players' equity when they buy these cards is kept valuable, and we can take a small clip along the way. And then you have actual incentive alignment between the gaming publisher and the players themselves.
This is crazy. That is like the onboarding method, the methodology that I feel, and I preach on the show a lot, that is just, I feel like the best experience to build in this space, and to bring it to the masses and bring an experience to not only the gamers but the studios who don't know how much they're missing out. Fortnite has no idea how much they're missing out on season 1 battle pass assets that would sell for a lot more now in season, I don't even know what season they're in. Let's just say they haven't been sold for 4 years now, those assets. So the secondary revenue that they could get off of that just by facilitating a marketplace, I think speaks for itself, but they are just completely unbeknown to that. They don't know, anything about that yet. That's just something they might be doing market research into, but go ahead.
No, I was going to say that the best data point here, right, is Illuvium, which is building Immutable today. They just sold $72 million worth of land in a weekend, and that was 20% of their total land. And the reason they were able to do that is because 100% of their revenue, not just their profits, goes to every player or ILV holder. And that means that the incentive model is fundamentally different. You're not just building a game which extracts value from players, you're building an economy with the players, where they are literally having skin in the game, being your evangelists, being your marketers, and being your value creators in terms of third-party content. And the platform which has developed this best in the last 2 decades is really Roblox, right? Which is rose to prominence pretty much out of nothing, off the back of designing a slightly better creator monetization platform where people can effectively build third-party experiences in games and then monetize. And Web3 is taking this on steroids, 10 times in it. Yeah. So creators can keep 100% of the revenue from assets that they generate for UGC. So this actually creates far more compelling ways for people to create successful games. And it also evens the playing field so that a developer without a massive marketing budget, or who isn't a AAA studio, can create a quality game and then have supercharged distribution because they offer more value to players. They align incentives with streamers or bring distribution value to the game, and they allow people to actually earn while they play or share that game.
Definitely. And people have no idea how hard it is to make a good game, A, and then B, to make your game stand out beyond most of the games in the world, which I believe it's 93% of Steam games have a player base less than 50 players per month. So it's really hard to make a game that stands out long term. And I think that Web3 gives a shot to those developers and not have to put all that budget into outsourcing it onto these big Web2 platforms that over time aren't really going to give you that visibility that you need really tangibly to make it as a game. And I think Web3 empowers those platforms to kind of be, it's a completely in-house experience. It takes out those middlemen, as crypto does in a lot of different businesses in the world. So I'm really a big fan of that business model. And what you mentioned about Illuvium, that kind of brings me into my next question for you was, what are some of the games that you're, very excited about coming to the Immutable platform. Obviously not in a picking favorites type of way, but I'm sure with so many games coming to the platform, you have to be very excited for what's to come. What are some of the standouts in your mind as far as those upcoming titles? And we can start with, the really high quality, like, not high quality isn't the name, the high tier brand name projects in the space. And then those like mobile game experiences, or maybe, some projects that people might not be too familiar with.
Of course, we've got IP like Disney and Marvel and DC Comics all built on Immutable today through our partners, VV or Colex, who built these kinds of experiences. We launched TikTok's first ever NFTs. We are putting a huge emphasis on games because we really think that this is where trillions of dollars of volume every year is going to come from, and hundreds of millions of players can have better economic rights over digital property. The games that I'm really excited about, I'm excited about a lot of what is building on the platform today. We have a 70-person go-to-market team, so business development, kind of platform success, where we provide advisory services, and that's growing rapidly, so 100 by the end of the year. And we basically focus on how do we find the most meaningful games building on Web3 and make sure they're building on Immutable. And that's why today, out of the top 10 kind of blockchain games in the world, more than half of them are building on us, because we really take the job seriously of how can we make these games successful. We had 10 people up all night for the Illuvium land sale launch, because that's the kind of support that we think these games deserve in order to achieve their goals, which are massive. We're trying to disrupt an industry and fundamentally change the incentive model to be better for billions of people worldwide. Some games I'm really excited about. We've obviously got Ember Sword and Planet Quest. I think Planet Quest is doing some fascinating stuff with sort of viral referrals and utilizing Web3 to kind of organically grow traction. We obviously have Guild of Guardians and Gods Unchained, which is kind of Immutable published or made content, which we're really excited to be growing this year as well. And Guild of Guardians beta coming pretty soon. I know it just went out to a closed group of people.
Fun game. I got that. I got that group. It was very fun, by the way.
It's awesome. Yeah. Deviants, I'm pretty excited about, who came over from Terra, I believe. So we're kind of onboarding a bunch of people from that platform at the moment. Awesome. World Wide Web obviously is a massive kind of blue chip gaming project, which we recently announced. Cross the Ages is a big backed sort of trading card game, which I think has a high potential to go mainstream. We have, even in the past month, I think we've onboarded or signed more than 10 games, which is pretty much more than any other platform in the world. So really excited. Obviously, there's a lot of this supply that just has to be built out. Like, games take time to build, but I think we'll start to see some very high quality titles come out over the next 6 months. Obviously, Illuvium to be one of the really major ones. I think probably the sort of 1,000-pound gorilla in the space right now.
Yeah, of course. I think that everyone's really excited about Illuvium. It's been one of those, key names in the space since Axie really made its run. And then everyone started looking at, what's going to be next? What are those AAA experiences in the space, et cetera? And then on a partnership standpoint, even as far as, obviously the games you're facilitating, but the backbone that Immutable is, facilitating for Web2 gaming structures like GameStop. So I think that this was fantastic. When we heard about this in the space, everyone in their life has walked into a GameStop, whether you bought a game or whether you got ripped off selling one, right? I'm kidding. But whenever you sell it for like a couple dollars, of course. But you had an experience with GameStop. I was camping out all the GameStops to get Call of Duty at midnight every launch, right? So I've had my fair share. It was
EB Games here down in Australia. That same experience. Yeah.
So I think it's awesome providing a backbone for GameStop. Where do you see the future of this for both, Immutable's platform? I think it's very positive for that. But for the adoption of Web3 games, where do you see this alliance, Immutable and GameStop, going in the future?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. They have a massive retail audience, which we're able to tap into.
Absolutely.
So, I see a lot of hybrid kind of stuff in the future for NFTs, especially as a mainstream onboarding experience. Awesome. I bought this skin or this asset inside a store, and I actually get this redeemable NFT with it. And there's no reason why you wouldn't go through that process if you've just been given that value. So I've seen that as a really kind of critical avenue. They have obviously over 50 million retail customers. But then, of course, their digital community is just one of the strongest and most fervent in the space. They're very, very passionate about digital ownership and fairness, right? And that makes sense from the economic history of the creation of that community. And that's the exact same sort of value set that I think Web3 gaming is driving. And that's why we're so excited to sort of bring that audience to every single game building on Immutable. And obviously, one of the beautiful things about our order book is it means you can sell an item inside Illuvium and someone can buy that asset in GameStop or on Rarible or on Token Trove or one of the marketplaces that we're working with. And we have a bunch coming out. And I think that's really key because I see a lot of the supply side liquidity being generated from in-game experiences and a lot of the buy side on these major NFT aggregators, which are sort of aggregating eyeballs and creating the best experiences for traders.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I think that this has the potential to bring it to, I mean, not hundreds of thousands, but millions of eyes, as you mentioned, with their audience, with their reach, with the people who have had experiences with GameStop in the past. And honestly, what a better vendor. There's not a better vendor in my mind right now in the space, right? To be that first facilitator from Web 2 of Web 3 gaming and native assets, games, etc. I feel like GameStop is such a great fit to be that first leader in that space too. So I really applaud Immutable for that platform. And then I think before we really wrap it up here, before we hit the 25-minute mark here in a few minutes, I loved whenever the $500 million fund came in for gaming. I think this sets the concrete. This sets the concrete for the future for Immutable and everything and the plans for Web3 gaming and on the platform and everything, the toolkit that you're providing these games in the ecosystem. So what can people, expect over the next 3 to 5 years? Once I think right now, even, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you would probably double down and agree. Immutable is still in its infancy stages, in my eyes, very infancy stages. And that's why I say this is the concrete that I think's been laid so far. And the house that could be built on top of that could be a very, very impressive house, to say the least. What can people expect over the next few years from Immutable? And, with everything behind you, the war chest of funds and the power and capability with partnerships, what can people be excited about?
So the first goal of Immutable is 100 million gamers who have proper economic rights by making Web3 gaming mainstream. And having Immutable as the core decentralized backbone that connects buyers and sellers across any marketplace, across any roll-up. Obviously, we're rolling out StarkX and StarkNet, and that means you can have hundreds of L3s. Each of them has connected liquidity, which is one of the core problems that we have to solve in the blockchain space. Vitalik talks about how do we solve cross roll-up liquidity for NFTs. So I think this is really, really key. The second thing is, once gaming is one as a default platform, well, how do we go and restore digital property rights across all of these other verticals, create better prices for businesses and consumers, and create better financial utility? Because right now, what crypto is building is this huge honeypot of decentralized finance and third-party financial ecosystems, where anyone who tokenizes an asset in the future can instantly put that asset up as collateral and get USDC, get the best rates for lending against or borrowing from that asset, to use it in DeFi or have it reflected in digital ownership or wagering in their favorite games. And so we're building this massive pile of financial utility that as soon as you say turn your house or intellectual property or financial instrument or sneakers into an NFT, it suddenly gets access to all of this. And our goal is, how do we go vertical by vertical and sort of tokenize the world, make it fairer, make it low fee, and make sure that users or players or traders, whatever vertical it is, have true economic property rights. And that's why I think this market overall is probably the largest ever addressable market invented since search. It's in the trillions of dollars. And Immutable plans to sort of connect buyers and sellers for every vertical.
I love it. And I don't know if you saw with financial publications over the first half of 2022, over 50% of gaming financing in the entire industry is from Web3 gaming financing. I also see that is a tale of what's to come over the next, like I said, 3 to 5 years, decade in the future. The quality of Web3 games and the quality of people in the space like yourself and some of the best talent in the world from some of the best gaming studios in the world. I think it's going to be really interesting to see where we are, in the next couple of years and, where Immutable fits into it. Robbie, where can people find you? Where can people best find Immutable? And any last, anything you want to leave the audience with?
I'm 0xferg on Twitter. Immutable on Twitter is our main one. If you want to build on us, just come to immutable.com and there's an application, or you can just build self-serve. We recently had Aglet, which I think has 4 million monthly players, basically build without telling us. And now we're obviously working closely with that team, but I think that's a testament to just how easy we've made the platform to build on today. Final thing is just, reach out. I think we're building a really strong community and working with everyone from developers to traders to users. So come say, hey, if you have an idea or want to work here, we're growing really, really rapidly.
Yeah, I love it. I love everything you guys are doing. So guys, if you aren't already following Immutable and Robbie, I highly recommend you do so, because I think that they will be a key player in the space for years to come. So once again, Robbie, thank you for joining me. Guys, if you enjoyed the show, if you enjoyed the video, like the video down below. Leave your comments down in the comments down below on Immutable, on the future of Web3 gaming, and maybe what is your favorite game launching on the Immutable X platform as well. And subscribe to the channel for shows here every single day on Crypto Banter. We'll definitely have to do this again, and maybe on a roundtable of some really sharp minds in Web3 gaming. So we'll discuss that at a different date. But once again, Robbie, thank you for joining me. We're out of here, guys. As always, play well, my friends.